Hey everybody, it's Lost Bobbin, and I'm here today to take you through a terrible tutorial on how to build a creeper farm. It's terrible because we're going to do it in survival mode, and I'll probably forget stuff and do things wrong and run out of blocks. But it is going to be a tutorial, and that's the key. We're going to go through theory, and you will be able to build any kind of creeper farm anywhere you want in your world, and it's going to work. So if you're looking for one of those high octane creeper farms over like an ocean or something, you can definitely watch the video and definitely get the theory here. But I'm building this creeper farm in a cave next to my base because I just need a little bit of gunpowder here, people, not trying to supply a server. And I hate to AFK. So while I'm building out here in my valley, I'm going to have creepers passively giving me gunpowder here in my cave. Now, why is this cave so big, you might ask? Well, it's because I like to blow off steam after work and mine blocks. So, got a little out of control, but that's okay. That's okay. This is the space you actually need for a farm. And what we're going to do is we're just going to walk over here real quick and show you the dimensions. The level I'm standing at now, this is going to be our water level. And this is going to be our hole for the kill chamber. And these torches represent the holes the creepers will fall through into the water. So you can see that there's 2 blocks on this side, but there's actually 3 blocks on this side. Don't think you're crazy. Mathematically, that's how it has to work out. Let me show you really quick the resources I have for this build. And they are spruce logs, because a giant taiga is probably the easiest way to get the most wood. And you're going to need a lot of trapdoors for this build. I've got just any old random block, so I chose cobbled deep slate because I have a ton of it. You're going to need a whole bunch of stone buttons, which you can, of course, make later. And then over here, I have more solid blocks. I have water buckets, and then I like to see my farms, so I'm going to make some tinted glass with amethyst and glass later. With any mob farm build, the first thing you want to do is build out the kill chamber. That way, everything can at least be contained while you are building up the levels and the walls and things like that. The last thing you want is a bunch of mobs running around getting in your business. The depth of my kill chamber is based on where I want to access it later on. So I'm putting it at around the level that I'm going to be able to access it from an armory I'm planning to build. And I understand that mob farms work best with you being a certain radius away from the actual spawning platforms. But that's what's so nice about having it right next to my base, because I'm kind of constantly running around and I'm not looking for optimal gunpowder here. I just need some. So as long as I'm getting maybe a creeper or 2 every time I'm building, or 4 or 5, that's going to be sufficient for me. I'm not trying to sell gunpowder to a server full of 15 people. It's pretty much just me. A trickle is enough. Having fancy access into my base right now is not critical. So I'm just going to put some scaffolding up here really quick and go ahead and build out this kill chamber. Another thing about building things in survival is you forget some of your supplies. While I'm getting supplies for the kill chamber, let me show you all the different options for kill chambers. And I'm going to show you 3 different kill chamber concepts. One is campfires, one is magma cubes, and one is a trident killer. I think the campfires are the cheapest. The magma cubes are definitely the quietest. And the trident killer farm also gives you XP. So let's go and see how these are built. The basic idea is that you've got a hopper system going into a chest. And with the campfires, it's just as simple as having the campfires on top of the hoppers. And you can see, if I start throwing things in here, then they are getting picked up and put into the chest, no problem. The magma cube takes a little bit more. You cannot place a magma cube directly on top of a hopper and have an item pass through the magma cube. So it requires having mine carts with hoppers underneath. So this is a bit expensive as far as iron, And it's extremely tedious to get the mine carts into that particular configuration, but I have faith you can do it if this is the method you want to go. And so you can see that again, my magma cubes are getting picked up and put into the chest. No problem. So the fourth option is a trident killer farm. This one also gets you XP, which is pretty cool. It uses observers and pistons and redstone. I'll just kind of pause here a moment so you can see the configuration. And then the pistons are kind of shoving all of the different blocks around. So if I kind of toss a whole bunch of blocks in here, you can see that they're not getting picked up by any of the hoppers. But if I turn it on, then they get pushed around and pushed into the hopper system. This hopper system also requires the minecart with hopper, and the hopper, the rail, and then your chest down here has magma blocks in it. This is a really noisy system, but it works well, and all it requires is a player take a trident and throw it into one of the pistons. The trident is then pushed around, killing any mobs that fall in here. This is an extremely neat system. The biggest drawback is that if you're playing in a realm, the person who originally threw the trident has to be online for XP to be gathered. So if you are just playing, but your friend's not online, you can get the mob drops, but you're not going to get the XP. Okay, let's get back to the build. So for my kill chamber, I've chosen to use the campfires. I'm not worried about the particle effect, and it's just going to be cheap and cheerful. Okay, let's get to the next part. I've been using stairs as the water source for as long as I can remember, and that all has to do with the original tutorial I found. I don't really know what the benefit is versus just placing water directly on the ground, but for this video, we're adding stairs, and I'm going to make them cool deep slate stairs. Even though this is a terrible tutorial, I would be remiss if I did not teach you how to make an infinite water source. It is as simple as putting 2 water buckets in opposite corner of a 4-block opening, and that's it. That's your infinite water source. So because I am in survival mode and I have a ton of buckets, I am not limited to only having 1 bucket, but you can do this all with just 2 buckets of water. So the next thing I'm going to put in is the water. Sometimes I do this later because I get tired of getting pushed around by the water so much. But when it comes to a creeper farm, I'd rather have the creepers swept up and put into the campfires than linger around and possibly blow up the rest of my work. Anytime you place a bucket of water, it has a maximum spread of 8 blocks, so that all the water flows just to the lip edge of the down tunnel, but not pouring into it and putting out the campfire. So there's a chance people use the stairs because you can just kind of stand on them, which is handy when you're placing water, not getting pushed around so much. And last one. Wow, that's pretty cool how it all flows down. And it's also picked up my scaffolding and all of my torches. So the water is good to go. And if I fall in, I just have to fight to get out of there. Let's put these away and get the materials for the spawning levels. This build takes so many trapdoors. Do not underestimate how many spruce logs you need to build for this contraption. You will have to go chop down more trees if you underestimate it. So let's start working on the spawning platforms. To begin with, you want to be 2 in from this vertical wall, not the stairs, but the vertical wall. So that's going to be 2 in and then 1 and 2. Okay? So I'm going to use scaffolding. You can use solid block. It doesn't really matter. We are going to go to the top. So I carved out that much, and then I got bored. So that's going to be the limit of my spawning platforms. I am going to start at the top, and I am going to work down. So I'm up here with a little bit of a platform to stand on. The scaffolding is eventually going to be replaced by a solid block, but we will get to that in a second. Now I'm just going to build a single layer here. This is going to be where the creeper falls through into the water, as well as they can fall off any of the outside edges. So to have them fall off the outside edges, you need trapdoors, because the creepers see a trapdoor as a solid block, and they will walk over it and fall to their doom. The other thing you need is a trapdoor in here. And see, this is why it is a terrible survival tutorial. Okay, stand up, open it up. Now, when we put the trapdoors, it is critical that all of these spawn layer trapdoors open in the exact same direction. So as you're building out your whole floor here, you want to make sure that you choose a direction for your trapdoor and they're all the same. Okay, now for buttons and upper trapdoors. The buttons go on, oops, hi there, torch. Now I got to put another torch. Okay, oops, that is a button. Okay, so the buttons go in a pattern like this around your trapdoor, and then we're going to look up onto the ceiling and we're going to put a trapdoor over this one, this one, this one, and this one. So let's peek here at this layer really quick so you get the theory. The buttons go in that pattern around the trapdoor, and then trapdoors go on the ceiling in basically the opposite pattern of the buttons. So we're going to go down the scaffold a little bit and we'll go 1, 2, and we want our next layer on this level. Because the creeper is just under too tall. To make your life easy, you'll just want to recreate the same pattern. And I can't do that one yet. I'll do that when I get back. Button, 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 button. And finally, the trapdoor in the center. Okay, so, whoops. Hi, infinite water source. I don't need you anymore. Thanks. All right, I have space for what looks like 4 layers. And so you can see really clearly the concept of where the trapdoors are going, and then the buttons are on the opposite sides. And then the trapdoors are also on the sides, so the creepers can fall off the edge this way. So I'm only going to have 4 spawn layers, and that's good enough for me. So we're back up at the top, and we are going to go 14 out from this scaffolding. So that'll be total of 15. So 1, 2, 3, and so on. And then from this side, 1, 2, 3, and so on out to 15. 13, 14, and 15. All right, so that's going to be a full spawn layer right there, following this pattern, which is a bunch of solids and a hole. Bunch of solids and a hole. Bunch of solids and a hole. I think you get it. I'm going to pause for just a moment and show you guys exactly why we're using trapdoors and buttons. It all has to do with the size of the mobs you're trying to capture. So you can see the creeper here is actually shorter than 2 blocks tall. And that's why you're putting the trapdoor under there. So you do not get zombies, skeletons, or witches. And then a spider is only 1 block tall, so you might be capturing them, but you really don't want spiders. So that's what the buttons are for, because they need 2 blocks in order to spawn. So the button stops the spiders from spawning. You can actually build this without the trapdoors and catch these other mobs as well if you want those drops, but it's up to you. Since we're just building a creeper farm today, I'm going to put in the trapdoors, and that way I'm limited to creepers. So you thought I was kidding about needing a lot of spruce logs. I wasn't kidding, but I'm going to help you out. Down below, I'm going to list out how many logs you need per level, because trapdoors eat up so many logs. Even though I had a slight delay of having to go chop more wood, I have all 4 levels done. So let's take a quick peek as to what they are. So you can see across the level that I have all the buttons interchanged opposite of where the trapdoors are up here. And then all of my trapdoors of the holes are all facing the exact same direction. So everything is going to fall down and not hit a trapdoor on its way down. So this method does decrease the number of creepers you're going to get spawning in any particular area, because they can only spawn in areas like this. They can't spawn here or here or here. So the floor is actually pretty reduced for spawning, but each level is good. And we're going to go to the topmost level, and I'm going to remove the torches. For some reason, this is always the scariest part in survival. Like, they're just going to suddenly erupt. They're just going to suddenly start spawning all over you or something. The final step is going to be to make a giant box and close this all in and make it nice and dark. It looks really dark and scary up there already. Ooh, creepy. But we have to make it completely dark so there's just no light leakage. Personally, I always like to look inside farms every so often, so I'm going to make a tinted glass wall here. I love that the game added the tinted glass so that no light gets through, but you can look through it. And so you can see things like dungeons and spawners and stuff like that. This is purely an aesthetic touch, not a requirement. So we're all done here. I'm going to go clean up and I'm going to do a little bit of building, and I will check the gunpowder chest in a bit and see if it's working or not.
So it's been a little bit of time. I don't know how much. I added an entry point to my Nether Fortress stairway. I'll deal with that in a whole other episode. But I also kind of tidied up the stairway. But let's go see what's in the farm. Okay, so in the chest, we've got gunpowder, but it looks like we've got a bunch of other garbage as well. So this means that some of the trapdoors were not placed perfectly, and I am going to need to fix that, but I won't do that in this video. The reason I have to fix it is because of the campfires. Witches cannot be killed by campfires, and so then I'd come down here and have a room full of witches. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my terrible tutorial. By all means, let me know in the comments if it was simply terrible or if it was useful as a tutorial. Bye!